on Confession Night every Monday 9:15 to 10 p.m. This is a place where real people share their deepest, darkest secrets.
Are you also ready to ignite the spark in your love life?
Every Wednesday 9:15 to 10 p.m. on Bedroom Bliss, it's a moment to explore the heart of intimacy, passion, and connection. We also delve into topics like desire, pleasure, and vulnerability, and help you create a more fulfilling and satisfying love life.
And relieve the excitement of first date debrief every Friday 9:15 to 10 p.m. where we dive into the high and lows of new love.
From the shadows to the spotlight, let's explore the human experience in all its complexity. Stay glued to Whispers in the Dark on Radio Afinju for a journey that will leave you breathless.
Wherever you're listening or watching Radio Afinju, the time is 3 p.m.
First, a look at the highlights. Federal government begins evacuation, opens IDP camps for residents in affected Maiduguri communities. Passengers stranded at main Kenya airport as staff protests. Harris puts Trump on defensive in ferry debate. A very good afternoon and welcome to the World News on Radio Afinju. My name is Stella Aderanti. The news in detail. The federal government has begun the evacuation of residents of the affected communities in the flooding that has ravaged Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State. A statement by the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, said it is also working on the provision of food, shelter, and medical assistance for the victims. The unfortunate flooding situation in the Maiduguri metropolis of Borno State, which started last weekend, and increased in the early hours of Monday, 9 September 2024, resulted from excess water from the Alao Dam. One of the spillways of Alao Dam collapsed, leading to a significant increase in water flow downstream and exacerbating the flooding in surrounding areas. The areas impacted by the incident include Shehuri parts of the government residential area, Bomboni, Budum, Bulablin, Adam Kolo, Millionaires Quarters, Monday Market, and Gwanje. As a result, NEMA said the Borno State government has opened up Bakassi camp to accommodate those displaced by the flood. Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court in Abuja has granted 10 end bad governance protesters who were arrested and detained for treason, among others, to a bail in the sum of 10 million naira each and one surety in like sum. While delivering the ruling, the trial judge held that Nigeria's criminal justice system has its stipulations for the prosecutor and the defendant. Justice Nwite agreed with the argument of the first, second, and fourth defendants' counsel, Abubakar Marshal, that anybody charged with a criminal offense must be presumed innocent until proven guilty. On this note, he granted the bail application of all 10 defendants. The Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, has reported a fire outbreak at the Itamaga Plank Market, Ikorodu, in Lagos State. A statement by the agency's head Public Affairs Unit, Nosa Okumbo, said it received distress calls and immediately activated its Lion Squad from the Agbowa base. He said upon arrival at the market at about 4:20 a.m. today, it was discovered that one of the shops was engulfed by fire. However, after a thorough investigation, the agency revealed that the fire originated from a power surge. LASEMA said the fire consumed the shop, resulting in the partial loss of goods and properties. It, however, added that no life was lost and no injuries were sustained during the incident. Residents of Muriki town in the Zormi local government area of Zamfara state are in fear as the deadline given them by notorious bandit kingpin Bello Torji to pay an imposed 30 million naira levy expires today. The bandit kingpin, in a viral video, imposed the 30 million naira levy on the community following the killing of over 100 cows belonging to him by the military some weeks ago. The dreaded bandit kingpin had earlier demanded that the community pay him 50 million naira, but later reduced it to 30 million naira. An indigent of the town, Abdullahi Muriki, told reporters that the community have been sourcing for the money to pay the bandit's leader. According to him, each house owner in the town are taxed to pay 10,000 naira each, while unmarried individuals are to pay 2,000 naira each. The Nigerian Meteorological Agency has predicted thunderstorms and rains from Wednesday to Friday across the country. NIMET's weather outlook released in Abuja envisaged thunderstorms over parts of Borno, Adamawa, Taraba, Yobe, Katsina, Sokoto, and Kaduna states during the morning hours on Wednesday in the northern region. According to NIMET, thunderstorms are expected over parts of Kano, Borno, Katsina, Adamawa, Kaduna, Taraba, Zamfara, Kebbi, and Jigawa states during afternoon and evening hours. It predicted intermittent rains over parts of Enugu, Ebonyi, Abia, Anambra, Edo, Ekiti, Oyo, Rivers, Cross River, Delta, and Akwa Ibom states later in the day. NIMET envisaged intermittent rains over parts of Ondo, Edo, Oyo, Oshun, Ekiti, Imo, Enugu, Ebonyi, Abia, Cross River, Bayelsa, Rivers, and Delta states later in the day as well. The agency predicted thunderstorms are over parts of Adamawa and Taraba states in the northern region during the Friday morning hours, among others. And away from Nigeria, hundreds of passengers have been stranded at Kenya's main airport as workers protest against a planned takeover by an Indian company. Large queues formed outside Nairobi's Jomo Kenyatta International Airport earlier in the day as flights were delayed and cancelled. Workers launched a go slow, where staff deliberately work slowly to cause disruption in a stand against proposals to lease JKIA to the Adani Group for 30 years. The Aviation Workers Union argues the deal is opaque and could lead to job losses. However, the government has defended the proposal, saying the airport is operating beyond capacity and needs private investment to upgrade. In other parts of Africa, Senegal's Navy says it has found 17 more bodies from a boat carrying refugees and migrants that sunk off the West African country, raising the death toll to 26. In a post on X, the Navy said that it had recovered 17 lifeless bodies after 9 people were initially announced dead following Sunday's shipwreck of the western town of Mbor. The search is ongoing, and the Navy said many of the vessel's passengers remain missing. The boat, a narrow wooden fishing vessel, was carrying more than 100 people from the town, and it capsized after sailing only 4 kilometers. A spokesperson for the armed forces told reporters that the Navy had sent a plane and 2 boats to search for the dead and survivors. In Asia, the death toll of Typhoon Yagi has risen to 152 in Vietnam, according to government estimates, as one of the country's largest rivers reaches its highest level in 2 decades, flooding the streets of Hanoi. Reports say flood waters from the swollen Red River reached a meter high in parts of the capital earlier, forcing some residents to navigate their neighborhoods by boat. It was learned thousands of people have evacuated from low-lying areas of the city, and 10 of Hanoi's 30 administrative districts are on flood alert. The government said floods and landslides across northern Vietnam have been the main causes of death from the typhoon Yagi, which was initially categorized as a super typhoon, the equivalent of a Category 5 hurricane, but later downgraded to a tropical depression, has continued to wreak havoc in Vietnam since making landfall on Saturday. It has been described as Asia's most powerful typhoon this year. Authorities in India's northeastern state of Manipur have imposed an indefinite curfew and blocked internet access following student protests against a new surge in the ethnic violence that has rocked the region for more than a year. A notice from the state's Home Ministry ordered all internet and mobile data services to be shut off for 5 days to bring the latest unrest under control. A curfew was imposed in 3 districts of Manipur, while the state government said that internet and mobile data services will be suspended until Sunday in order to curb misinformation and hate speech that could trigger more violence. Manipur, a restive state of 3.2 million people tucked in the mountains on India's border with Myanmar, has experienced periodic violence for more than a year between the predominantly Hindu-majority Meitei and the mainly Christian Kukis over economic benefits and government jobs and education quotas. Despite the heavy army presence, the deadly clashes have persisted. In the United Kingdom, a man with learning disabilities who says he fell under pressure to confess to murder has had his conviction quashed after 33 years. 3 judges ruled that Oliver Campbell's 1991 conviction for the murder of Baldev Hundale in East London the previous year was unsafe. Campbell, now in his 50s, said he can start his life as an innocent man. His purported confession at the time was made up amidst the stress of being interviewed, judges have previously heard. In 1991, Campbell was jailed for life over the murder of Hundal, who had been shot dead in Hackney during a botched robbery carried out by 2 men. Campbell was released on a light license in 2002 and lives on his own in Felixstowe, Suffolk, with the assistance of a close group of friends and helpers. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy have arrived in Kiev on a joint visit as Ukraine continues to press for the right to use U.S. and British long-range missiles against Russia. Sources said the 2 men traveled together to the Ukrainian capital after talks in London and are due to meet President Volodymyr Zelensky, who has repeatedly called on Washington to loosen the limits on U.S.-supplied weapons. Earlier, U.S. President Joe Biden and his administration was working on whether to lift the restrictions. The policy will come under further scrutiny when UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer meets Biden at the White House on Friday. Ukraine's Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal thanked Lammy for the UK's military support for Ukraine throughout the war. In the Americas, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump meet in a fairy debate, their first of the 2024 U.S. presidential election. It was learned they debated policy, but personal attacks also dominated the 90-minute event. Harris said people leave Trump rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom, while he said people don't go to hers in the first place. Trump criticized Harris' record on immigration and the border, and also her shifting policy positions. Harris blamed him for Trump's abortion bans and the 6th January attacks on the U.S. Capitol. Snap polls suggest Harris won the debate, but Trump says afterwards that she lost very badly. With the election taking place on 5th November, Harris is slightly ahead in national opinion polls, but key battleground states are very tight. Mexico's Senate has approved a controversial judicial reform under which judges will be elected by popular vote. Its supporters say the changes will make judges more accountable to the Mexican people, but critics argue it undermines the country's system of checks and balances and will strengthen the power of the governing Morena party. The bill has triggered strikes and protests, with demonstrators earlier breaking into the building where the vote was due to take place. The Senate vote was the last major hurdle facing the legislation, which has the backing of President Manuel Obrador. During a dramatic late-night session, the debate had to be paused when protesters chanting "The judiciary will not fail" stormed the chamber where senators were gathered. After the lawmakers moved to a different building, the vote went ahead in the early hours of the day, and senators were called one by one by their names to cast their votes. And from the Middle East, the Hamas-run health ministry says at least 19 people have been killed in an overnight Israeli strike in the designated humanitarian zone in southern Gaza. Witnesses said the strike obliterated an area crowded with tents for displaced Palestinians in Al-Mawazi, southwest of Khan Yunis, leaving huge craters in the sand. The Israeli military said its aircraft attacked what it called a number of senior Hamas terrorists operating there, a claim Hamas denied. The military also disputed the initial death toll put out by the Hamas-run Civil Defense Authority, which reported that rescue teams had recovered more than 40 bodies. Hundreds of thousands of people have sought shelter in the humanitarian zone, which spans only about 16 square miles along Gaza's southern Mediterranean coast, after being told by the Israeli military to evacuate there for their own safety over the past 11 months. Iran has condemned allegations by Western countries that it has supplied short-range missiles to Russia for use against Ukraine and pledged to respond to new sanctions imposed by a trio of European states. Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesman Nasser Kanani, in a statement, reiterated Iran's denial that it has supplied the weapons and called the sanctions announced by Britain, France and Germany economic terrorism against the people of Iran. He pledged that the three European countries would face appropriate and proportionate action. France, Germany and the United Kingdom announced the sanctions earlier in the day, same day after the United States formally accused Iran of supplying the weapons to Moscow. The measures revoke bilateral deals for providing air services to Iran and impose sanctions on flag carrier Iran Air that will restrict its ability to fly to Europe. And talking sports, Super Falcons and Racing Louisville FC, Uchenna Kanu has announced having successful surgery to finally shake off an injury she has been playing with for some time. The 27-year-old shared the cheering news in a statement on her Instagram page, buttressing the revelation with the picture above, which shows her smiling broadly on the hospital bed. Kanu had last week in a video announced her decision to finally allow the leg to fall under the doctor's scalpel, promising to race through the recovery process and urging her fans to pray for her. She was sorely missed by Racing Louisville FC during Saturday's 1-0 defeat by Bay FC at PayPal Park, San Jose, California, where Nigerian teammate Aziza Zoshoala's second-half goal made the difference, reflecting on the loss that nudged Racing into 11th place and 4 points off the postseason cut line ahead of another critical battle next Saturday at home against 9th place Angel City. Their defender, Abi Arseg, bemoaned their inability to score a goal in the absence of Kanu. Before we go, here again are the highlights. The federal government has begun the evacuation of residents of the affected communities in the flooding that has ravaged Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State. Hundreds of passengers have been stranded at Kenya's main airport as workers protest against a planned takeover by an Indian company. And in the Americas, we brought you news that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump meet in a fairy debate, their first of the 2024 U.S. presidential election. And that was the world news on Radio Alfinju. To view our channel, please follow us on Facebook, Radio Alfinju, X, Radio Alfinju, and YouTube, Alfinju FM. My name is Stella Aderanti. Thanks for listening.